Welcome to our Zelda mailbag, where we answer your fan-submitted question. If you would like to have your question answered, you can leave it in the comments below on this video, or you can head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse and pledge at any amount to have your question take priority, just like Casey did. Casey asks, do you think Ura's Zelda will ever be completed and released, maybe on Nintendo 64 Classic? You were talking about the N64 Classic earlier, Daniel.
I was, but I don't think it will.
And there was the unreleased, I was going to say Star Wars, Star Fox game that ended up being released on that. So do you expect an unreleased game to come on this or Ura Zelda? Like, I don't see it at all.
Because they've said very vocally before that whatever they don't use in a Zelda game, they often save for the next one.
Yeah.
So I think, for example, there's a lot of people think there was like a Sky Temple or a Temple of Light that was supposed to be in like Ura Zelda, or that was cut out of Ocarina of Time, and I think that just got used in another game. Like, I think that all the missing elements that would have made for one awesome game were just dispersed into other future games, and I don't think we'll ever see it.
Yeah,
sadly.
There are interviews, and there's a YouTube channel I'm friends with, Hard for Games. They do a lot of beta stuff, uncovering a lot of beta elements from games and talking about canceled unreleased games, similar to the top 5 canceled and unreleased series that Daniel and I have. But whenever I was talking to him, he brought up some interviews or something where Nintendo or Miyamoto actually said Ura Zelda was completed. Like, it was 100% completed, but the disk drive was a failure. So if they would have launched the expansion with Ocarina of Time, then they would have lost money, because they lost money like selling the disk drives. So for them to put out more games for it, they would have lost even more money. So instead, they just scrapped it. But if you go to Nintendo headquarters in Japan, I guarantee if you found your way into Miyamoto's office, there would be a ROM for Ura Zelda just on his computer, tucked away in a folder that hasn't been clicked on in 15 years.
Yeah, probably. And I think that Ocarina of Time, it was originally made versus how it was released, I think it was pretty much cut in half. I think that there's a lot of stuff that was initially meant for the game that just because it had to be condensed into the cartridge and they couldn't take advantage of the extra power of the disk drive, that they pretty much just cut the game in half to make it fit. It sucks, but I don't think we'll ever see Ura Zelda or even the original complete design that Ocarina of Time on its own was supposed to be.
We also have a video with Andrew, or Yuri of Wind, another friend of the channel, who on his own channel he's talked in length about Ura Zelda, and Daniel and I had him on a video where we talked about it as well. I'm not sure if you did voiceover for that video, Daniel.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. I'm sure someone watching this will probably remembers. But
I'm always up for discussing the possibilities of Ura Zelda, but it went through multiple phases. Like, there's interviews with Miyamoto where he said that originally on the Nintendo 64, they just weren't aware of how powerful the console was. So at first, the entire game took place inside Ganon's tower, because they didn't know they could have a world as large as they did with Hyrule Field until they actually tried. So it was originally supposed to kind of be like Mario, but Zelda. And then some of the early cutscenes where it has the 3D model of what A Link to the Past Link would have looked like. And he's fighting with like a shiny skeleton, and they're presumably in that version of Ganon's castle, and that's the way it would have looked until I believe it was one of the developers' wives like asked why Link wasn't handsome or something like that.
Can't you just have one handsome character, something along those lines?
Yeah, so
they made him a little bit better looking, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, there was there's a lot of people that will tell you that they'll actually point to an interview with Miyamoto, but as we talked about earlier, Miyamoto tells fibs every now and then when it comes to marketing. But to push sales of the Master Quest version of Ocarina of Time, that was like a bonus with Wind Waker, he said that it was what they intended the Ura expansion to be, but all it did was remix the dungeons. It didn't add any new content, which is what it was supposed to have. You're supposed to have like a new area to explore, new side quests, completely new dungeons. Like the Ice Cavern was originally an ice dungeon.
Oh, it's like a full dungeon, yeah.
Presumably you would have unthawed Zora's domain, but as Daniel said, where half the game or whatever was cut out, you're left with it just presumably unthawing naturally over the course of a few years. So,
but I don't think that we'll see it.
Yeah, they, as Daniel said earlier, reusing ideas in future games. They did that in Twilight Princess, where there's the volcano rock or whatever it was, and you have to take it and unthaw the water, right?
Yeah.
And
you drop it in the throne room, and there's a Goron trapped in there.
There's the ideas and everything that's reused in later games. So, in a way, you got what Ura Zelda would have been with like the city in the sky from Twilight Princess, the ice dungeons from Majora's Mask. So like,
just sort of like bits and pieces of it sprinkled throughout games to come, I think.
Where it was supposed to add in a lot of new side quests. I would assume a lot of the concepts for those side quests were just tucked away in Majora's Mask.
The side quest king of the series. So,
All right. So moving on to our next question from, you know what I noticed? We only have comments from female viewers. No guys asked their questions. From YouTube. Take this one from Anna.
Okay, so Anna Radcliffe, who we actually answered one of her questions previously, she starts with, "Yay, my question was answered." So awesome. Glad that we were able to answer that for you. She says, "However, I feel that it was kind of taken in the wrong direction. I was more wondering about if the sages, maidens, champions, etc., would become just normal NPCs after clearing out their respective dungeon. I wasn't really thinking about them as followers or the amiibo. Rather, instead, they can just be found in their hometowns up until you confront the antagonist. Then they go and fulfill their destinies."
Okay.
Moving on from that, I was wondering, what would you think of a future Zelda game depicting Link as a noble and having the game start in a noble household? I don't think any Zelda game has done that yet. Maybe this way we can be able to see this game's version of Link's parent. So it's kind of two questions there.
Yeah. Go over the first one briefly. So if we're using Breath of the Wild as an example, you had to, like, Zelda was trapped in the castle sealing Ganon. But
the champions were...
the champions were trapped, like their spirits were trapped inside the divine beasts. But when you beat Ganon, Zelda's spirit is saved. She's there in a physical form, but when you save the champions, they are stuck there. Like, you don't go back to Zora's domain and see them. In the same way, in Ocarina of Time, when you complete the water temple, like, you find Princess Ruto in several different locations to kind of guide you along your way. But once you beat it, she remains in the Chamber of Sages. She doesn't,
Yeah.
like, you can't
So it'd
go
be
back
like-
to Zora's domain to find her. Although it would be
Yeah.
really cool if they had her, like, standing on one of the islands in Lake Hylia, so you could, like, go out there and just talk to her. So
Yeah,
kind
so
of
I think that's kind of what she's meaning. Like, if you beat, say, the Forest Temple and then Saria, yeah, you can find her in Kokiri Forest after that and talk to her. Or you could find Darunia in Goron City back in his throne room after you beat the Fire Temple, and etc. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like that was kind of what I thought that you had meant, but we kind of went into a different direction thinking about new ideas.
Sorry about that.
So we kind of tangent a lot, I guess. So once we start rolling an idea, we just kind of run with it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But with her second question about Link being a noble, do you see
Yeah.
that? Or did you have anything else to say about the previous?
No. I mean, like, it would be cool, actually. But then I would worry that, like, what are they doing? Then they're just kind of standing around while I'm going around doing everything. like, come on. Like, I would still rather, I think, a companion character.
But for this question, I think the closest that we got was actually Hyrule Warriors, because it shows him as a knight in the army.
Yeah. Or Spirit Tracks, where he's a royal engineer. Which every time I talk about the game, it sounds so silly, but I really do like that game. I really find it a lot of fun. But he's like, otherwise, we've pretty much just seen him as like a nobody at the beginning.
Breath of the Wild, you find out that he was the #1 soldier they had, like the best knight.
Mm-hmm.
When he was a kid,
and that his
he was
father was in the Royal Guards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skyward Sword has him training with the other knights of Skyloft in the Skyloft Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Ocarina of Time doesn't really mention his dad, but you assume he's a guard, like almost every other male. For him to be important enough to be taken and hidden away, whereas like kids like Malon or Malin, however you pronounce it, just stayed in the ranch. Like, you would think that Link's father would have had something like close ties with the king. That's why he was sent away. I think A Link to the Past had his uncle as a knight.
Yeah, I think so, or at least it's sort of hinted at that he was, because just if we get into A Link to the Past lore a bit, there's like a Hylian bloodline that is dying out, and in that Hylian bloodline, they have that telepathy power. So that's why at the beginning of the game, Link hears Zelda's voice.
Yeah.
And I think so does his uncle, because they share the same bloodline. And so his uncle grabs his sword and shield and off he marches. And I think that because of that sort of implication that he was probably a knight or a soldier of some kind, and he lived close to the castle. So I don't know, like that's sort of the implication I always got. And then Link goes chasing after him and he dies. I'm sorry, spoilers for the first 3 minutes of the game. But yeah, it's like that was always the implication that I got, was that at least his family had ties to knights or something along those lines. But
yeah, the only other game that I can think of, which as we talked about in the last mailbag, in Majora's Mask, Link does not die. He stays alive. He makes his way back to Ocarina of Time. He grows into an adult. He presumably gets married. If he doesn't get married, he at least has a child. That child ends up having a child, and eventually we get Link from Twilight Princess. And then you go to the grave in Twilight Princess, which is a nod to the Link from Ocarina of Time. Being a knight. So although you didn't start out as a knight in Ocarina of Time, you never see him become a knight. After Majora's Mask, it's presumed, like the game basically tells you that eventually the hero of time, comes back to Hyrule, has a family, becomes a knight. What else would he do? Like, he killed Ganon.
Yeah.
Like, no one else
Yeah,
did.
and like pretty much like the threat of Ganondorf was eliminated. He was put into the Twilight Realm.
Right.
And so at that point, like my assumption would be that the hero of time either became a knight in the Royal Guard or something like that, or sort of became a lone swordsman type, Lancelot type character.
Yeah.
But never in that timeline got the Master Sword or anything like that. But then because his grave is in the castle, I assume that maybe Zelda knew the truth of what happened.
Yeah.
Or he was connected to the royal family in some way after that. So yeah.
All right. Take this next question before we move to our Discord question. We'll only take one or two from Discord, and then we'll answer them kind of quickly, because we've been going for a few hours now.
Yeah, true.
I need food.
No food for you, Jesse.
Yes.
So this one is from Ashley Felt as well. So she says, "Hey Jesse, how would you feel about Vati coming to a main console Zelda game? What are your thoughts on the Champion's Secret Dialogue in DLC 2?
I would love to see Vati come.
Yeah, Vati would be cool.
I think there might be some issues with Capcom there.
I mean,
Capcom.
Vati's only appeared in the Four Sword games, basically.
Yeah, and which includes Minish Cap, because the Four Sword is in Minish Cap.
Which is, it's just neat because the Minish Cap is sort of the Four Swords origin story in the same way that Skyward Sword is the Master Sword's origin story, right?
Yeah.
Even though some people think they're the same sword, they're not. But Vati is a cool villain. I really like that he's not Ganondorf. I like Ganondorf/Ganon as a villain, but it's nice to have a different character here and there.
Yeah.
And I like the approach to writing Vati's character, where I think it was the original Four Swords where he first appeared, and he's just basically evil eyeball monster, and that's all you know about him. And then they like kind of went back on that and like wrote him a backstory as the Wind Mage, and that he eventually transformed into giant evil eyeball thing. And I really liked that approach to his character. I thought he was, aside from maybe Girahim.
That's similar to like Malice from Hourglass, like their final forms were like crazy eyeball monsters.
Bellum. Malice is basically blue pig Ganon, but not Ganon.
Yeah.
Bellum was the weird eyeball monster in Phantom Hourglass.
Thank you.
But no worries. If I don't correct you, someone in the comments angrily will. But yeah, I mean, like, I would actually like an origin story for Bellum too. That's similar. Just see like what happened. He wasn't just a monster forever, right? Probably.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, no, I'd be down.
Breath of the Wild was odd. It's the first game since A Link to the Past that had Ganon, but not like a human form or a host.
Without Ganondorf.
Yeah. A Link Between Worlds had like the other version of Ganon. Yeah, like Yuga Ganon. Twilight Princess Ocarina of Time had Ganon and Ganondorf. But
Wind Waker had just Ganondorf.
Yeah, and then Breath of the Wild had just Ganon. So that would have been cool to see like a Wind Waker version of Ganon. Yeah,
that would have been neat. But we just got the weird puppet Ganon instead. I actually don't like that fight that much, but I really do enjoy the actual Ganondorf battle, the actual final battle. But now people are going to lynch me about not liking that. But yeah, I mean, Vati is a neat villain. I'd like to see him come back.
I like Vati as well. They could, especially since he's more of a magic user, where Ganondorf is like a warrior who can use magic.
he does magic as well, but he's definitely more like this chief warrior guy, and you kind of see that in Ocarina of Time, where he's just kind of doesn't want to waste his time with young Link, and he just sort of magic blasts him aside.
Yeah.
I don't think he's okay. The final battle, he's using magic as well.
Yeah.
But his other battles where you fight him, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, he's like a sword fighter basically, like a very heavy sword fighter. And then even when he turns into Ganon, he stops trying to use his magic and he just full out uses giant swords. I think that at that point, if we try and look at sort of on a lore side of things, to explain why sometimes he uses magic to fight and sometimes he doesn't, I think that in Ocarina of Time, in that battle against Ganondorf, he's had the Triforce of Power for 7 years. He's probably just really enjoying having this powerful magic, being this powerful. So he doesn't take Link that seriously, and he's probably just throwing shit at him basically. Whereas in these other battles, he's acknowledging a serious threat, and he is probably doing what he is most skilled at, which is using his swords.
Yeah.
Just my thought.
So, really quick, because she already asked one question, what are your thoughts on the Champion's secret dialogue in DLC 2? I don't know exactly what she's referring to with secret dialogue. Is that
that I'm
when you
not sure
when you
if it's a secret? I haven't found it.
When you return to the Divine Beasts multiple times, they give different dialogue each time. They're like, "Oh, you're coming back again. You're supposed to be taking on Ganon, but I guess if you need the training."
Really? Okay, no, I've never noticed. I've never done this. I never went back, I guess.
Rivali says something like, "What are you doing? Wasting your time? I would have already went and defeated Ganon, but you're still here practicing," or whatever.
Okay. No, I mean, that's cool that they added that. I like that.
Yeah.
But I never found it.
Mifa says something about you didn't by chance come across my diary, did you? And then she gets mad and is like, if you did, don't read it, because she doesn't want Link to know that she has a crush on him or whatever. So
even though it's super obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So sorry, Ashley, I didn't know that this secret dialogue existed.
Yeah. Game Explain.
It was a secret from me.
Game Explain has a video where it shows off all of the different dialogue, so you can just put on that video. So that's all of our questions on YouTube and Patreon.
Sweet.
But we have a couple here on our Discord chat, which you can join by following the link below. So there were a lot of people that commented on Discord. So why don't you go ahead and put on whatever question you would like.
Yeah.
There's 10 questions, so just pick one.
Someone asked, questions for what? That's a question in itself, isn't it? No, someone asked, let's see, Sans4G asks, did Link die and get back from the dead? And if he did, how? The answer is no, Link did not die, okay?
Unless you're confusing the canon death of Link from the Downfall Timeline, which is separate from the Dead Link theory.
If that's the case, then no, he did die, but he did not come back. No.
He stayed dead.
He definitely died for good. Ashley asks, Champion Ashley,
the videos on this channel are funded by supporters on Patreon like you. If you're a fan of this channel and would like to join on videos, receive shoutouts, watch videos early, have your questions answered, or have your topic discussed on our podcast, please consider supporting on Patreon for these and many other rewards for just $1. Shoutouts for this video includes Link Use the Triforce, Rusty Caulfield, Lovable Christy, Give Time 15, Shadow to Us, Robbie Morgan, and Lunarium. I want to thank all of you for everything you have done to help support this channel.